Hi everyone. I would like to start on our backs tonight. Um, so you can lie down with your feet flat on the floor and your knees pointing up towards the ceiling. And just take a few moments to start to feel your back body on the floor. And you might adjust the distance of your feet or the width of your feet. You might move them closer to the pelvis or further away. And you're looking for a place where it feels like the knees could, if you were to fully relax the hip muscles and the groins, the knees might even be able to balance there in midair. So you're kind of finding that support from the pelvis on one side and the sole of your foot on the other side. And your shin bone and your thigh bone are sort of just leaning against one another here in the knee joint. And decide where you'd like to place your hands. So you might bring them on your body somewhere or let them rest by your sides. And spend the next moment or two just feeling where you're touching the floor and what that point of contact is like, what that support feels like there at your back, underneath your feet, beneath the pelvis, underneath the shoulder blades, at the back of the head. And you might notice your breath. And you can start to bring the breath in some kind of rhythm or some kind of pattern. So you might just gently, it's like you're kind of inviting the breath into a pattern rather than imposing a structure on the breath. Yeah, so you're kind of guiding the breath into maybe a 4-count inhalation, a 4-count exhalation, for example. Nice and easy. My intention for today, just with the cold weather coming on and the way that a lot of, I don't know, where I am, there's a lot of people getting sick and a lot of things going around, and I wanted to turn our attention towards the nervous system, or sorry, that that was a little slip. The immune system. But the first thing we're going to do is to tune into the nervous system. I find that times of high stress, times of holding, is times when the immune system is unable to do its job as well as maybe it could have. So we're making space for ourselves, we're making space for the body to start to come into a rest and digest, and a rest and restore sort of mode. So just the simple act of letting yourself come to the floor and lie on your back here. Maybe your eyes have just naturally closed. Maybe your thoughts have become a little bit quieter. You're transitioning into a space that is restful and restorative. Nice. And from here, from lying on your back, I'll invite you to just let a little hum or a little sound come vibrate around your closed lips. You could breathe in through your nose and then just let out sort of a hmm. Or maybe it has sort of a tone to it. If your hands are on your body somewhere, you might feel the vibration underneath your hands. And you can think of it as like a little, like a gentle massage fluttering around on the inside of the body. And then I'll invite you to let the lips fall open. As you inhale, you'll take some breath in and you'll exhale with just a ma, just like a ha or a ma or a wa, or just some sort of release of sound out through the mouth. Feel how the jaw releases down and back towards the floor. How the tongue is wide and falling down and back into the mouth. I know I've talked about this before, but this audible sigh is something that our body will do naturally to release tension, to release stress. You're late somewhere, you run into the meeting late. Oh, guys, sorry I'm late. There's this kind of, whew, that was a close one. And there's this release of air and sometimes of sound. So maybe you take a couple more, or ha. Maybe with the sense of relief. Oh, finally. Ah, yes, here I am. Nice. And now one by one, you'll just hug your knees in towards your chest. Coming to Apanasana. And you can start to bring your breath back into that equal rhythm in and out, counting to 4 as you breathe in and counting to 4 as you breathe out. And maybe you rock side to side here, massaging the lower back. Feel your shoulders are still on the floor, your chest is still broad. And then bring your left foot to the floor. Take your fingers or your fingers interlaced behind your right thigh, or if you have a strap, you could bring a strap around the ball of the right foot. And you'll just reach the right foot up towards the ceiling, keeping the left foot grounded. If you have the strap, you can walk your hands all the way up the strap so that the elbows are straight and let the shoulders continue to fall down towards the floor. Same with if you're grabbing your foot. I'm keeping this right knee bent. Just kind of breathing into the backs of the legs and the front of this hip. And if it feels nice, you can lengthen the left leg by sliding the heel forward, flexing the left foot toes. But there shouldn't be anything going on that's making you want to constrict in the throat and the shoulders. So maybe bringing the hands just behind that thigh is nicer. It lets the shoulders release. Maybe bringing a strap is just, easier. Keeping it easy. The left leg is energized, whether the foot is pressing into the floor or pressing down into, like if there was a wall in front of you, you're pressing through that leg. You're pressing through the foot. Nice, and then just bend your knee. Bring your right foot back down so that both feet are standing, and just pause for a moment, noticing whatever you notice. And then you'll hug the left knee in towards your chest. taking a second to find both sides of the pelvis are on the floor. The right foot is grounded. The shoulders are not stressed. And then you'll start to reach the left foot up towards the ceiling, grabbing the back of the hamstring or either end of a strap. Maybe bending that knee so you can reach your toe with the left arm, left hand, elbow is straight. And feel how your right foot is still supporting you. Your two sides of your pelvis are still grounded. Your shoulders are still grounded. The jaw is still releasing down and back. Breath is moving easily. And if you want to, you could slide the right heel along the floor, flexing those right toes up towards the ceiling. And you've probably seen this shape before standing. You've probably maybe seen or practiced Warrior 3, right? So this left foot is the grounded foot in Warrior 3. And notice if, as you bring that memory back to mind, maybe you feel the spine elongating from head to tail, or you feel that right leg reaching along the floor the way that it reaches back when we're in Warrior 3. And then just bringing your knees back in towards your chest, squeezing them close, Appanasana. And let them come over to the left. And bring your right arm out to the right, whether it's straight or maybe bent at the elbow. The upper arm bone should be in line with your shoulder. So if you're reaching it out, straight out from the shoulder joint, if it's bent, it's right here, to avoid any scrunching in the shoulder. So knees are reaching to the left, right arm out to the right. Right shoulder is releasing down and back. The knees are being pulled towards the floor on the other side. And with it, each exhalation here, you're feeling into the space that is being twisted, the space in the middle of you, between the ribs and the top of the pelvis, your belly, all the organs that are there. Noticing how the breath moves around that space that is kind of constricted in the twist. And then notice now what could soften, what kind of tension or holding is maybe not needed at this time. Can the right shoulder and the right arm soften down into the floor just a bit more? Can you release maybe the front of the right chest? Can the low belly be soft as the knees are moving down towards the floor on the other side? Nice. And then you'll just bring your knees up and over to the other side. Maybe pausing for a second to squeeze your knees close in Appanasana, and then moving your knees over to the right, letting your left arm come out to the left. And take a look, just check that the left arm is level or even, a little lower than that shoulder joint. I'm just wanting to avoid compression in the side of the neck, reaching the shoulder towards the ear. So that arm is long. Maybe it's bent at the elbow. And you have all of this space in the top of the lung. And then all of this kind of opening that's being encouraged down in the hips. And then at the center of you, there's a compression. With each inhalation, maybe you feel into the space in the hips, the space in the armpit. You feel yourself widening. With each exhalation, you maybe feel into the center of the body, into the space that's being twisted, feeling a sense of kind of gathering, a wringing out, squeezing out. This is nice for the kidneys and for the digestive system. And then again for the nervous system. The body's like, if we're calm enough to be digesting, if we're having this process start to happen, it must be safe out there. It must be okay to kind of come out of that activated state. And then vice versa, as you come into a more kind of centered nervous system state, you feel more at ease, more safe. The digestive system, etc., are like, I guess it's safe now. I guess we can focus on doing these things, these processes, as opposed to the kind of activating processes that you needed the rest of the day. And we need this kind of push and pull and this communication to happen, to have a healthy functioning system, to keep moving food and toxins to where they need to go, to keep the exchange of oxygen and blood, all of this stuff. Keep it moving. Notice all the movement that is here in this held kind of static posture. Great, and then you'll come back to center, hugging your knees in towards your chest. And then grab the outer edges of your feet or your big toes. Or you could take a strap. Oh, I had one here this whole time. You can take a strap and kind of loop it around and hold either end, so it goes like over one ball of foot to the other arm. And similar idea here, you're keeping the chest open, you're keeping the shoulders wide on the floor. You're letting the elbows be straightened just as a result of being placed where they are. You're not stressing too much about reaching up towards your feet. You're pulling your feet down, actually pulling your knees down, letting your elbows drape on the inside of the knees. And just give yourself a little rock side to side here. Reaching the soles of the feet or shining them up towards the ceiling as you pull the knees down towards the floor. Chest is open, throat is open, jaw is soft. And from here, you might enjoy straightening the knees or kind of straightening the knees, coming into kind of a Supta Upavishta Konasana. Extending the feet out. Making like a wide V with the legs. Maybe rocking side to side with that V. And another breath or two into wherever you're feeling sensation in the hips or the groins. Great. And then you'll roll over to one side and use your hands to press yourself up to a comfortable seat. You could sit up on some kind of support. You could sit on a blanket or a bolster or a block. And as you come to sitting, you can sit up tall, feeling into where you're touching the ground, letting the belly be open and soft. And the rest of your structure just kind of rebounding up from the floor, the crown of your head reaching up towards the ceiling. And I'd love to move sound and breath through the body now by chanting Om. So if you'd like to, you could bring your palms together and bow your chin in towards your throat. Your eyes might softly close. And maybe you have an image or some kind of image or some kind of sense of this Om, this what this sound means to you. Or maybe you're just feeling on a physical level like where the sound is vibrating through the body, or both. So we'll breathe in through the nose, bringing our attention inward towards the place where the palms are touching, where the thumbs are touching the breastbone. Exhaling to Om. Rub your hands together, creating a little bit of heat. And just once you feel like you can feel that heat between your hands, bring your hands, your palms over your eyes and let your fingers just relax over the forehead. Bring your palms now to touch your cheeks, kind of along your jaw. You can always charge them back up and maybe have some intention of what you're bringing into the hands to place here softly on your cheeks, on your jaw. Maybe a sense of healing or softness. And if this feels kind of like out there and uncomfortable, you can maybe think about if this were someone else's hands, the way that you would bring your hands to someone you love. You're cupping their sides of their cheeks. And you might feel this kind of change in the quality of touch when you suggest that you are touching someone you love. And then we'll just take our fingertips and like we're like shampooing something through our hair. We're just gonna like, I'm just kind of like scrunching around on the scalp. You can kind of get your thumbs into like back behind your ears. And just as you do this, just be sure that you're still breathing. You're like, I thought this was yoga class. This is now massage class. But I feel like this is good. You can even bring your palms to kind of your temples here and give a little bit of pressure. And then with your fingertips, you can softly just poke around. Poke is not the right word. Prod around through the kind of sinuses, through the forehead. And when you are feeling unwell, like this is where you kind of sometimes will feel it, that like congestion. You're not doing anything dramatic. You're just kind of feeling around, encouraging all of this stuff to move. You can move. It's nice to do like strokes kind of like away from the face, around the temples. Ugh. And then we'll just kind of bring the chin, or sorry, bring the ear to the shoulder and let the jaw fall open. And you can kind of prod around your collarbone, or the top of the kind of trap area. And coming up to the other side, bringing your ear towards your shoulder, and just poking around. Nice. And just notice whatever you notice as you bring your hands back down to your legs, or maybe your palms come back to center. Feeling some spaciousness, some release through the facial muscles, some movement maybe of the lymph out of the face. And then we'll bring our legs now either to cross with the left shin on in front, or you could bring your legs, your shins to stack with the left shin on top. Okay, so left shin in front, Sukhasana, or left shin on top, Agni Stambhasana. And if there's a lot of space here between this knee and the foot, maybe Sukhasana would be a better move. You could always also sit up on something to bring some space into the front of the hips. So wherever you are, you feel grounded through the pelvis. And then we'll start to just walk the hands forward, like we're reaching the heart over the legs, like we're reaching the navel up and over the legs. In other words, you're not curling in or crunching down to try and get towards the floor. A diagonal sort of reach with the crown of the head away from the tail is going to be preferable to like trying to find the floor. And see that wherever you are, your head is part of the rest of your body. So if you imagine your spine from the tail moving up through the back, through the center of you, follow its soft curves up into the cervical spine and the neck. And notice your skull balancing there on top of it, on the end of it. So as the spine folds down over the legs, the head follows, the chin is tucked. And then once you can't fold any further, it might be nice to let the head go and just release through the sides of the neck and the top, the kind of upper back. So there's a few things going on. We're in a forward fold. We're bringing our attention a little bit more inward. You might notice sensation strongly in the hips and just be with that sensation. You could imagine here that you're breathing in and out of the hips, the sides of the hips or the pelvis, or even the back. You could imagine that you're breathing in and out of the space between the shoulder blades. When you're ready, come on up. Pause at the top and then change the cross of your legs. It might be nice to like uncross them for a moment. And then change the cross of the legs so now the right shin is in front or the right shin is on top. And this side might require a different setup. This hip configuration might be different. So you're sitting up tall and then finding a nice long fold. The fold is happening here in the hip crease where the leg meets the pelvis. So the spine is long. The head is a part of the whole equation, and you're walking your hands forward and coming to rest somewhere. And once you've folded as far as you can let the head go, you can let the upper back, shoulders kind of give in more to gravity and find a little bit of opening that way. Sometimes I like to rest here holding my own head. And someone might walk past and be like, oh, she's having a bummer day. But I feel like there's also a reason we do this. You've had a really shitty day and you're just like, oh God, it's kind of nice to feel that support of the head and the hands. Might even continue my little scalp massage with the fingers as I'm down here. So many things to do. Notice where you're feeling a lot of sensation and send your breath to that place. Let the breath move in and out of that place. Hi, Debbie. Nice. And then when you're ready, come on up, back to seated. Take a moment. And then we'll come to hands and knees. Come this way. Setting up a tabletop position. Your toes can be tucked or untucked. But you might tuck your toes for a moment and press your hips sort of back towards the bottoms of your feet. Opening up the bottoms of your feet. Just kind of enjoying that rather intense sensation. You can come forward, keep them tucked or untuck them. And we'll just move with the breath in that equal rhythm in the Samavriti pranayama. Just moving between cat and cow. So the inhalation brings you to cow and the exhalation brings you to cat. With a focus perhaps on the space around the heart. So as you inhale, you're feeling the collarbones spread apart, the heart open, the breath moves into the chest. As you exhale, you're moving the back of the heart up towards the ceiling, feeling the shoulder blades spread apart. The head looks down or in towards the belly. So you're inhaling, opening the front of the heart, bringing the shoulder blades a little closer together. Exhaling, opening the back of the heart, spreading the shoulder blades away from one another. And the next time that you exhale, tuck your toes, and instead of moving into cat, inhale forward, bringing the heart in between the upper arms for cow. See that your fingers are spread really wide. You can step your hands just a bit in front of where they were, spreading the fingers wide, and start to press down and forward with the hands. Down and forward, like you could, and you can kind of play with. As I press down and forward, I feel the pelvis actually starting to move back. Not because I'm scooting my lower body back, but because the arms are so powerfully pressing down and forward. So see if you can feel that. Down and forward with the arms. Down and forward with the palms. Spreading the fingers wide. And then allow that action to send your hips up and back for downward facing dog. So I'm keeping my knees nice and bent. I'm letting the head just hang and feeling this width across the chest and across the shoulders. Pressing down through the whole palm, especially this place right between the thumb and the first finger. Down and forward, feeling the armpits open up. Knees are nice and bent. Adho Mukha Svanasana, let the head and neck go. And then you can come down from Adho Mukha Svanasana. You can come down to your knees. You could rest back for a moment in Balasana, child's pose, letting your forehead come down, your hips sink towards your heels. Breathing into the back body. And on an inhalation, come on up, bringing the heart forward. Tuck your toes. Press the hands down and forward to send the hips up and back. Knees are bent. And you can bend one knee deeply and straighten the other leg and alternate back and forth. You can also kind of shift the heels over one way and then the other, sort of slow motion wagging your tail back and forth. Inhale, bring the knees softly down, maybe looking forward with the chest for cow pose. And then exhale, round the spine back into Balasana, child's pose. Inhale, come on up to force. Exhale, send the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Inhale, bring the knees down. Cow pose, reaching the chest forward. Exhale, round the spine and come back to Balasana. And continue in this sequence. So you're inhaling, coming up to force. Exhaling, sending your hips up for downward dog. Inhaling, bringing the knees down. Exhaling back to child's pose. Inhaling to come up, exhaling back. And if the sequence gets kind of like jumbled up on the way, that's okay. My intention here is to move at a little quicker pace with the breath, so the breath and the movement go together. And so then kind of subtly, by moving between shapes, we're letting the backs of the legs open, in their own time. We're letting the shoulders open in their own time. We're bringing like the slightest bit of tapas, of like a little teeny bit of heat or a little brisker movement. And the next time that you're in downward facing dog, we'll stay here for a few breaths. So you're finding Adho Mukha Svanasana with the fingers spread wide. Again, feeling down and forward is really going to help with bringing pressure off of the wrists. When you're like extending your fingers down and forward and away from you, pressing the mat away, the fronts of the wrists are going to be able to be a little more chill. Using this weight-bearing joint here between the thumb and the first finger. Feel this wonderful opening in the armpits, the strength in your shoulders. And then in the backs of the legs, perhaps a little bit more openness. As you're sending your heels down, your heels are reaching for the floor. Whether or not they touch the floor, it doesn't matter. But they are active. The legs are actively reaching towards the floor and grounding then into the floor or into the air, if that's where they are. You might feel this sense that the inner thighs are spinning up, sort of up and back. And this downward dog is a difficult pose to hold for a long time. When you are actually feeling not well and you have a lot of congestion, this is definitely not the move. But when we have the good fortune of having kind of like a clear sinus day, it's nice to be upside down like this and to bring a little bit of heat into the muscles and to kind of spice it up, heat it up, reverse the flow of energy here from how it usually is, head to tail, to how we are now, head to tail. Great. From here, we'll walk the feet towards the hands and come into Uttanasana with the knees bent. So everything is hanging from the tailbone, the knees are bent, and you can grab opposite elbows here and just dangle down. Your feet are strong, your legs are strong, the outer hips are nice and supportive, but the belly and the whole spine, the armpits, everything can just release, relax. The head can release. The neck can let go. Uttanasana. You can maybe imagine like just everything flowing down the spine, like you're a rain stick that you've been turned upside down, and now all the little beads are trickling down now from tail to head and pouring out of the crown of your head. Inhale, come halfway up, Ardha Uttanasana, reaching the heart forward and the tail back. Exhale to fold, bending the knees. Inhale, come all the way up, and you'll come to standing. Tadasana, standing, equal weight on both feet. And then step your feet wide. So you might turn to face the side of your space. So legs are wide, all of your toes are facing forward. And bring just a little relaxation into the knees so they're not locked. Great. And then you'll just start to, from this hip crease, you'll start to fold the chest forward until you come to like an ardha, like a halfway down. And the knees are soft. Then you'll let yourself come the rest of the way down. Prasarita Padottanasana. And I like to bring my hands a little further back so that they're in line with the toes. And let the head and neck hang. And I feel like it's important to keep the knees a little soft. If you have a tendency to like hyperextend them, it's good to have them a little bit soft. You notice all this power that you need through the legs, through the feet, and then the softness that you're allowed in the upper body. Another pose that's like not awesome to do if you are sick, but pretty awesome if you're trying to avoid some kind of sickness. Then come back to halfway up for a moment. Bring your right hand down on the floor in front of you. And this is where a block or a book might be nice and kind of helpful. So the spine is still long. And the arm is like right where it would be if you were a four-legged creature who stood like this. Like it's right down from your shoulder joint, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Right there in front of your face. Then you'll bring the left hand to rest on your sacrum and open up the left shoulder towards the left side of the room. So you're bringing the left chest, the left shoulder on top of the right. Keeping the chin tucked in, keeping the spine long. And what can sometimes happen is we're in this twist in the upper body and we're getting all excited and we lose the feet. So please just feel into both feet. See how that's your support here? See how you have both feet on the ground, your knees are soft. Your hand is here on your sacrum to feel that your pelvis isn't going anywhere. You're not twisting or doing anything destabilizing in the pelvis, but you're twisting here around the center of you. Twisting more and more, stacking the shoulders more and more. And then if you find that, yeah, the shoulders are pretty stacked, maybe you lift that hand up towards the ceiling. What we don't really want as much, or we're not as interested in, is reaching that elbow that hand, that top arm, as far back as it can go, like disconnected from the twist. Your arm is right where it would have been, shooting right out from your socket, stacking that arm on top of the other arm because your shoulders are stacked. Yeah. And then untwist, come back to center, bring your hands to your hips, and press into your feet to come up. Sometimes it's nice to bring the heels pointed in, the toes out, and just pause for a moment with the knees slightly bent. Kind of wiggle around in the hips. Then we'll bring the legs back straight or kind of straight, all the toes facing the same direction. And similar deal. This time we can bring our hands to the hips and reach the elbows back in space. Feel the chest opening, the collarbones spreading. The pelvis is still stable. You're not curving, so you're not sticking your butt back in space. Pelvis is stable, you're just opening across the upper chest. And then you'll fold, coming down. Hanging for a moment here in Prasarita Padottanasana. Feeling the two sides along your spine. Releasing the head and neck, releasing. And then you'll bring your right hand down to the floor, to the block in front of you, keeping a nice long spine. Bring the hand to the sacrum, right? So you're twisting to the other side. The right shoulder is coming up over the left shoulder, but you can feel here through the sacrum, through the legs that you're supported. This twist is happening around the middle of the torso. If and only if the shoulders are feeling like they're pretty much stacking, then you can expand your wings and reach towards the ceiling as you reach towards the floor. But it should feel that it's just an extension of what is already happening in the shoulders. And in these next few moments, just notice your head and neck. See that your head is still part of the rest of your body. Chin is tucked in. And then you'll untwist, this time coming back to this halfway position, and then exhale to fold. This time in your fold, you might bring your hands down to the floor, or you might even, you could interlace them and reach the knuckles up towards the ceiling. I'm trying to move all the gunk around, We're moving the kind of the stuckness in the heart and the chest and the armpits. We did some massaging of the face, and we're sending breath and energy through the spine, through the body, to these places that we often hold. So we're we're stimulating circulation, and we're also stimulating the flow of prana through the body. We're releasing tension, which then lets the body feel safe enough to heal itself when it needs to fight something off. There's such an interesting phenomenon of, I don't know if you've experienced this, but where you're anticipating some big deadline or some performance, and it's like as soon as the performance happens, or as soon as you open the show, or as soon as you do the presentation, right after that you'll get sick. And it's like, how did I not get sick that whole time prepping? And it happens the night before or the night after. And to me it feels like it's the body holding all this stress, all this tension, and the second you're like, oh, thank God that's over, it's like it can get in there and overpower. I don't know the science, but that's my theory. It's like an imbalance in how you're operating. You spent all those nights not sleeping and not eating well because you're stressed out about the thing. The thing finally happens. The body's like, I can't hold this thing off anymore. I've just given it all I got. Great. We'll come halfway up now. Coming slowly out of the inversion, coming back up, soft bend in the knees, coming all the way up to standing. And then we'll step or scooch or jump the feet back together for Tadasana, standing with your palms by your sides. Noticing all this space through the spine, your height, And maybe a new sense of width across the shoulders. Especially if you had your arms extended in that twist, you might feel like an extension of that feeling, the arms reaching out. And come back to face forward. We'll inhale and reach the arms forward and up. And exhale to fold all the way down, bending your knees as you go. Letting the head and neck hang. Plant your hands and step your feet back so you're coming to downward facing dog. Downward dog, the knees can stay bent. Feeling into the backs of the legs, your long spine. And just lower down to your knees, coming back to Balasana, child's pose. And in this child's pose, you might bring your hands in line with your rest of your body, so your fingertips are reaching back as your toes are. And then you can just let gravity take your shoulders away and apart from each other. Letting breath move in and out of the space between the shoulder blades. Perhaps you just naturally let the eyes come closed. You just feel this sense of like being in your own space a little more, being enclosed, seed-like here in child's pose. Okay, now I have a few choices and a few options. Option number one is to stay in Balasana and just cultivate this really nice feeling of coming inside and quieting the mind, bringing your awareness into the center of you here in this little seed-like shape. That's option one. The rest of the options are more inversions. The first would be downward facing dog. You could bring a block underneath your forehead for some support, or you could just come to a regular downward facing dog. Another option would be like a forearm stand prep, or like a dolphin pose. So in that case, you bring your hands down, your forearms down, shoulder width, spread your fingers wide, press down into your forearms under your hands and your palms and your fingers, tuck your toes underneath you, and you'll press down into your hands like you're coming into downward facing dog, but it'll be downward facing dog with the elbows down. So your knees are bent, you're bringing your hips over, bringing your hips up, I guess, and bringing your weight kind of into your whole forearm, your whole hand, all of your fingers, really strong forearms. This is really a lot in the shoulders. And the idea in terms of the nervous system is we're just like kicking this thing into gear. We're bringing some heat into the shoulders, into the lungs. It's a strong inversion. Just see that your forearms are shoulder width, so they're not too wide. They're not, you have support there, and you're using the structure of your shoulders. So that's another option. Then you're pressing the floor away and letting your head and neck dangle. Okay. The last option is to come into a headstand. Sirsasana. Okay, so you could choose to bring the crown of your head to the floor. You could play a little bit in headstand, just like flirt with it a little bit, like wee, like lifting a toe off the ground. You could come against a wall, you could come all the way up. If that's in your practice and if that feels good to do today. Yeah. And when you come down, you won't do it that I just did. It's just like pop out of it. You'll come back into child's pose and just rest for a moment. So you'll just be here in this inversion as long as you want to be, and then you'll join us in child's pose. One last inversion to just let everything drain out, let the energy move in a new creative way. Dolphin is also really nice to just open up the armpits and the shoulders. And then when it's time to come down, you'll come down. And from child's pose, you can slowly walk yourself up until you are kneeling. And come to lie down on your back, however you want to make your way down. To lie down on your back with your feet flat on the floor as we were before. And pause for a moment here with your hands maybe somewhere on your body or out to the side. And just notice whatever you're noticing. A sense of spaciousness, a sense of energy flow. Notice your heartbeat, where it is. Maybe how often it is. You might feel it somewhere other than in your chest. You might feel a heartbeat in your soles of your feet or the palms of the hands. And feel into your feet, your 2 footprints. Just give a little bit more attention to the soles of the feet. A little bit more of a sense of pressing. And see if you can do so without tightening the rest of your legs. Just for this first moment, you're pressing the soles of your feet. And continue to press into the soles of your feet and start to lift the tailbone up towards your knees. You're tucking your tail, lifting your tailbone up towards your knees, and sliding your knees forward so the pelvis lifts a bit more and the spine starts to peel off the floor. You're here in Setubhan Sarvangasana, and just naturally your chin is tucking in now towards your chest. Your chest is coming up towards your chin. Reaching the knees forward. Imagine that you have something between your thighs so that your knees aren't like sprawling out to the side, but they're going straight forward. And then you can just sequence back down through the spine, coming back down to lie on your back. And then maybe you inhale and come up once again into a nice little Satubhan Sarvangasana bridge pose. In your own time, sequencing back down. So you're coming up and down in your own time, maybe spending a breath or two up there before coming back down. And then you might stay up there in your bridge pose for a few breaths. And you could even intensify this opening in the chest as you're feeling yourself come higher, as your knees are sliding that way and you're lifting the pelvis off the floor. Maybe you interlace your fingers underneath you, like near your sacrum, and you're pressing the pinky side of your hand into the ground and coming onto like the outer upper arms. Kind of a more dramatic opening through the chest, through the front body, really all the way from the breastbone, from the collarbones, through the front body, all the way to your knees. You can feel that this is all part of the same opening. It's kind of like dramatic in the chest, and the breath is moving up into the chest, but feel how this is a whole front body opening. Your tailbone's reaching towards your knees are going that way. Everything is extending, expanding, opening. And then some of you might come down to rest for a few breaths. Some of you might come back up after a few breaths, come back up again into a bridge pose. And some of you might come into halasana. For all of these, try not to turn your head to side. Keep looking up. But you might reach your feet over you, over the top of your head. And your knees can be nice and bent. You can always find like a chair or something with your toes. But this can be nice, opening through the shoulders. You're kind of bringing your pelvis up over your shoulders. Legs are reaching up over your head and maybe touching the floor or a chair or something. It could be nice just to bring your hands to your kidney area, just to feel that support. I feel like this is good when there's like, you're trying to fortify against any sort of potential germ infections. You're giving all of this like really specific attention to the kidneys, right? And you're opening through the back and the shoulders in a way that is quite dramatic. And it's kind of like, wake up, gang, we got a situation. I need everybody to be awake and alive and aware. So when that flu bug comes, I'm going full like clear eyes, full hearts, can't get the flu. I'm not a doctor. For legal purposes, there's no guarantee. But this like just brightening up of the back body, this brightening of energy through the shoulders. And then when it's time to come down out of your halasana, your plow, you can hold onto your back or your butt and just kind of bend your knees in towards you and roll yourself back down gently, carefully, nicely. And come back to rest here on your back for a few breaths. Shoulders are wide on the floor. Chest is broad. The back of the pelvis is wide, supported by the floor. And this place on your back with your feet standing might be a really nice place to land, actually. You might walk your feet a little further apart and let your knees come in towards one another. Maybe after one last little squeeze in Appanasana, squeezing your knees in towards your chest. If you'd like to continue this kind of theme of letting energy, fluids, everything flow from kind of bottom to top, you could take a Viparita Karani against the wall. So you'll bring your legs up against the wall or bend your knees over like a bed or a chair. And this is a more passive way to conduct the same sort of exchange. So you're passively allowing that rain stick to turn on its head and trickle down. This is also really nice to release the low belly and the groins, the inner thighs. So as you're resting your feet against the wall or on the chair, you're just letting the pelvis be grounded and letting the belly and the thighs, for just a moment, see if they can release, and just trust the legs will stay up. Back to my like Freudian slip about I said nervous system, I meant immune system, but I really believe, I know how intertwined they are. So in this Viparita Karani, you're really letting the psoas muscles release. You're letting all of these systems that are like taking in all that stress, you're letting them rest, relax. Another option, of course, is Shavasana. If you're wanting to feel a little more grounded and you want your whole body to rest on the ground, you can come to Shavasana, corpse pose. So find some stillness after you've done what you need to do. You've taken any adjustments, any last final little twisties or little appanasanas. You've addressed those little last nice things that the body is maybe asking for. Then you can come to stillness. You're just resting in the awareness that you are. You're laying down all of that effort, all of that strength that was required to create certain shapes. You're giving all of that up, giving it all away, and just taking a moment to rest. Your eyes might gently close, and you can direct your attention out of your brain. Hopefully it's by now dropped a little bit more into a sense of being in the body somewhere, and could eventually settle somewhere around your heart space. Notice if there is something that is holding that doesn't necessarily have to. You're just resting in awareness and letting the body kind of take over. You've given it all of this stimulus and all of this fuel. You've maybe started a little like rev up of circulation through the body. And now you just trust, you just let it go. I was learning about sleep, and I forget the statistic, but it was impressive. It was some whatever percent of our healing in terms of like illnesses and injuries, blah, blah, super high percent of that process happens in deep sleep. So all of the like exercise and all of the hatha yoga and all of the like, supplements we're eating and whatever, like kale smoothies and whatever, like antioxidant stuff. And then we finally go to sleep. And the immune system's like, oh my God, finally, she's asleep. Now we can actually work and do our stuff. So I guess the best things we can do for the immune system is to hydrate, drink a lot of water, and to sleep when we need to sleep. But I hope that in stimulating some circulation and in relaxing the nervous system, maybe you'll have a better night's sleep this eve. If the mind is becoming busy, you can always give it something to do, like watching the breath as it moves in and out through the nose. You can come into a mantra practice or some other meditative practice. We'll just rest here for a few more moments. And you might, at this point, come into a soft movement in the fingers or the toes. You might feel like you want to stay here in a meditation, and in that case, you're welcome to do so and to just stay in your own space. In a moment, I'll just chant to close our time together, and you're welcome to move on with me or to stay in your own space. Yeah. So if you'd like, you can come now to a comfortable seat, sitting up on some kind of support or some kind of prop. Finding a position where you feel like you can sit tall and easy. And if you'd like, you could bring your palms now together to join the center of your chest and rest your thumbs against your breastbone, bowing your chin slightly in towards your hands. We'll just chant Om together. We'll sing a little song and close this portion of the evening. Okay. So thank you all for practicing with me tonight. May you be well, be well.